Welcome to the Empowering Process podcast once again. And today, my guest is Michael McAdams. He is the founder of Spirit Speaks, the author of the book Spirit Speaks, and An Angel Told Me So. Michael and I are going to have a conversation around the channeling his mother did and the book that he wrote, The Angel Told Me So. His mother, William Jean Jones, for 22 years received messages from angels and would just get up and type them out. He gathered all of these together and produced an amazing book and lots of messages for you and me. Come join me and listen to what Michael has to say. And so, Michael, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on the Empowering Process podcast. And folks, we're going to talk about who knows. We're going to talk a little bit about the book he wrote based on his mother being connected with the angels, and his own journey is where I want to go on exploring spirituality. So, Michael, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, hi, Gail. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So tell us um, a little bit about your mother being connected with angels. And here's why this is really important, because you were raised in a very religious atmosphere. And so that was a little out of the norm. And
That's true.
yes,
That's
yes.
true. I was brought up in the Pentecostal church.
Hmm.
My mother was extremely religious. Her mother was a Pentecostal pastor. She pastored a small Pentecostal church north of Cincinnati. My uncle was a fiery Pentecostal preacher. He could move a crowd. And so I was brought up in that situation, but I always had questions. I always felt more spiritual than religious, even when I was young. I had questions about heaven and hell, and the way it was described, for just something within me said, well, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't
Yeah.
sit right. So I had gotten involved in spiritual material as I got older. I spent 2 years in Germany in the army. And when I got out, I started hunting up psychic fairs. Didn't really go for readings or anything like that. And when on my website, spiritspeaks.com, at the top it says Spirit speaks to the hungry soul. And then it says when the student is ready, a teacher will appear. And for me, that line, that phrase has always been appropriate because as a seeker, as a sincere seeker, when you're wanting to know, you're led to a book, a movie, an event, a speaker that will take you on the next step on your path. And I feel that I have been led on a journey based on my desire to know that has brought me to this point.
You know, I'm incredibly spiritual, probably to an extreme, and that's okay with me. And I do believe that this life experience that I'm in is not only one that I chose as a soul, but I actually created it for a purpose, right? And because of that, when I finally owned that perspective of mind, body, and soul, I did this, I created this. There's a reason for everything, right? And it's for me to learn. It's for me to wake up. It's for me to understand. When I own that, I no longer resist the experiences that I go through and become so aware. And you're right, not only does the teacher show up, but I get messages from the universe from anybody. I could be having a conversation and just last week a friend of mine said, "I'm getting this message that you should be available for Sarah." I'm like, "Who's Sarah?" She goes, "I don't know. I'm just getting that message." Right. I said, "Okay, so I'll just be open and available for Sarah." And then I realized my ex-husband's last name is Sarah.
Wow.
Right. So I reached out to him and, so we're like, if you need me, if you need anything, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. So there's just be open. You have no idea where guidance is going to come. And the guidance is you saying, listen, we wrote this story, right? And you're going down this path. I want you to go down that path, right? Nudge, nudge.
That's true. And we're all spoken to.
Hmm.
We all have our own spirit guides, spirit teachers. If you have a foundation of faith, you read and learn about angels, archangels, guardian angels. Those who are more spiritual than religious, they read and learn about spirit guides, spirit teachers, master teachers. These spirit teachers and angels are the same beings, just viewed from a different perspective. One religious, one spiritual.
And I will
So,
take it even a step further, Michael, because I base it in science. I base my spirituality in science.
sure.
Everything is energy, and we're energy that has a consciousness, right? And so if I can tap into how I feel and right, and you'll know whether it is in alignment, right, or whether it's ego. When the message and the direction is in alignment, there's no denying it,
That's true. That's
right?
true.
Right.
And a lot of people, especially those with a foundation of faith, and the great thing about a foundation of faith is it's a foundation that you can build on. But people who are open to communication from the spiritual realm, from our spirit teachers, sometimes they're afraid. They say, well, how do I know that something negative isn't going to come through? How do I know that it's a positive teacher, my own teacher? And I tell people, I say one of the best ways that you can offer protection for yourself is to create a filter, an aura of protection. And for me, I have been given a number of affirmations. I'm sure you're familiar with affirmations, positive statement that anyone can say. And an affirmation that was given to me so long ago, I don't remember when I didn't have it. And it said, let no thoughts, ideas, or information be made known to my mind that does not come from God or his direct representatives. And use that as your filter, your aura of protection. And if any negativity or any thought that would creep into your mind that you know you did not think, then you can simply discard that out into the universe and it has no effect on your thought system.
Right. I literally um, use the term permission, right? I have to give you permission, right, to enter my sphere of influence, right? So, um, and there's a long story behind that, and and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But there was someone who was literally energetically in my sphere, and I didn't want her there. And so I asked her to leave and then said, you no longer have permission. And then I created a sphere of protection and basically said, only light can come in and only those who I have give permission to. And I'll share a quick story, Michael, and then I'll get back to yours. I went through a chemo journey in 2023 and 2024 that ended the year. And I used a lot of Western and Eastern medicine. And one of the Western medicine physicians, specialists that I went to, does a process called body talk. And she basically asks my body what it needs today. And then whatever it needs, she gives, right? And when we started, she said, Gail, you need to give me permission to come in, right? So she couldn't even listen to my body because I had not given her permission. So it's very powerful. Our energy, our thoughts, our connection is incredibly powerful,
This is true. This is true. And that connection is with the spiritual realm that
right?
exists adjacent to this physical plane. And it's almost as
Yeah.
incomprehensibly vast as this physical universe, this physical plane that we exist on. And it's populated with an array of spirit guides, spirit teachers, master teachers, ascendant masters, and even higher levels of spiritual existence. And I tell people, I say, there is no death. We never really die. It's just graduation. We ride
Right.
around in these bodies the way we ride around in our cars. These bodies are just a vehicle to negotiate this physical plane.
Yeah, I have been playing with using the first movie of Avatar as an example. That is a perfect example of the soul, the person's mind, being put into a body that was made up. And then he lived and existed outside of his body. So we are living and existing outside of actually our spirit is us. This is within the spirit. But it's just like that movie. That movie has so much value with the connection to nature and it's people watch it with a spiritual mind and you will get messages like crazy.
I have thought about that myself, and I wondered how that thought or that concept, came to whoever wrote that, wherever that was that taken from a book.
Probably.
Most all of these movies are, taken from a book.
Yeah.
And I thought that very same thing, that this spiritual realm, that those with the foundation of faith would call or think about the spiritual realm as heaven, that the spiritual realm is much more than just a place called heaven.
It is eternal. That's the word, eternal. And that's a concept this body can't understand because we're in the realm of time and space. Once once a person experiences fourth dimension and up, and it's not up, but the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension, there's no more time and space. Those constraints and the constructs dissolve.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
true.
and it's beautiful. So share with me um, what you went through to be connected yourself, because so you're curious. You know that this isn't the answer. There's something else missing. You go on a quest, right? And this is so familiar to my experience. And then something happened where you realized, and not your mother, but you realized that you are connected.
Well, I have always really felt connected. I felt like I was spoken to even when I was young. I had thoughts and answers would be given in my mind in thought. And, my journey led to me connecting with a psychic group in Cincinnati. And I
Hmm.
had a table with that group and did psychic readings. And I would do psychometry. That's the ability to hold rings, watches, keys, anything that carries a person's vibration. And I had a legal tablet. They would sit down at my table. I would just ask their first name. I wouldn't engage in conversation, try and, pump them for information. And they would give me something to hold. I would just relax my mind and I would start to get a message. I would get a page, sometimes page and a half. When it got to the end, it would stop. And I would read that message to them. Sometimes they would cry. And it was more confirmation as to what they were going through rather than actual prophecy. And
Yeah.
again, I didn't think I was doing anything special. It just came naturally to me. And I had shared this information with Wilma Jean Jones, my mother, who was skeptical because of her strong foundation of faith. And I asked her one time, I said, "Do you think you could have an open mind?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "I can have an open mind." And so I proceeded to share additional information, introduced her to the psychic group, and she had been spoken to, Wilma Jean, on my website, spiritspeaks.com. There is a television interview that Wilma Jean gave in Cincinnati. Tabs at the top on the website, bio for me, bio for my mother. And there's a tab for the television interview that she gave in Cincinnati. And she talks about how when she was younger, that she would be standing in the kitchen doing dishes, and these teachings would be made known to her mind. And this was long before she started writing these down in individual messages. And she would just listen. And when they stopped, she would say out loud, "That was really good." So she had been spoken to as well. And when she was led to sit down in these dedicated sessions, this wasn't channeling. I'm sure you know what channeling is. This wasn't automatic writing. She had received in thought before. And as a matter of fact, she wasn't really sure that she should put these messages and teachings in a book. And she'd been praying about it. She was working around the kitchen one day, and these words started to come into her mind. She knew it was incoming. She picked up pen and paper. She had beautiful handwriting, and she received a short message that she felt was confirmation that she should put these messages and teachings in a book. May I share this message with you and your audience?
Absolutely.
So, this is what she received. Emptiness is part of fulfillment. Let your resources fill the void left so that distinction of your purpose can be found. Expression is always self explanatory. Therefore, look inside and anchor all your beliefs beside those still waters that will take away your troubled view and renew your strength to recapture that which was lost, but is now found to be adequate to pursue the course set before you. And as you reconcile your being to represent those qualities that have been left intact, God will see to it that although circumstances have been trying, to say the least, your weariness will disappear as clouds once removed allow the sun to shine to dispel the gloom and darkness that has pervaded your countenance. And as once described before, a token of this presence will be deposited to your account and books recorded in his name.
And so
And
what does that say to you when you read that?
well, that was confirmation for her that she
Uh-huh.
should put these messages and teachings in a book. And
Yeah.
it gives readers that particular message is on the back cover of my book, An Angel Told Me So.
Hmm.
And that gives people an idea of how these spirit teachers speak. And it's just an amazing body of material. The messages and teachings that Wilma Jean received as she was led to sit down in these dedicated sessions, she had set up an electric typewriter in her kitchen. And she would be led in her mind, we have a message for you. She would go in and sit down, light a candle, say a prayer, ask for protection, because you are opening your mind. And she would see 3 or 4 words just float into her mind and hang there. They would not go away until she typed them. Once she typed those 3 or 4 words, they would just fade away and 3 or 4 more would show up. That's how she got these messages. Full page, single space typed, many times with no paragraphs. And many of the messages are signed with the name of the spirit teacher that presented the message.
So that's really rather, really very interesting. And so I know that you are honoring your mother by presenting the book and promoting her teachings. What about you and what you're doing right now?
Well, my goal is to really, represent Wilma Jean, my mother, and all of her hard work,
Hmm.
represent our Heavenly Father, and represent the spirit guides, spirit teachers, master teachers that took their time and reached out to Wilma Jean, my mother, for 22 years to share these messages and teachings. But these messages in volume one were pretty much all personal messages to Wilma Jean and myself. Her spirit teachers would move in and give a message addressed to her by name and proceed to, present a message that was applicable to what she was dealing with. And then my spirit teachers would move in and give a message addressed to me by name. But it's like these messages and teachings are woven with a universal thread. And everyone who has read these messages have said, well, this sounds like what I'm dealing with. This sounds like they're talking to me. And I tell people, I say, when you get the book, read each message once as it was given for my mom and given for me. Then read that same message again as if it's being presented for you and see what hits. It's amazing what hits.
You know, we are all the same. We are all going through similar processes, and we all come from the same source. So the illusion of division and separation is really where conflict comes into play. When I'm able to remove that illusion, it's not you, it's not me, it's we. It's not even us, it's we, right? When I can connect to the we, then I see the you. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. And we're all a product of our choices and decisions.
Right,
And we have been born to a certain set of parents in a certain social station for whatever it is that we're supposed to learn in this lifetime.
right,
And
right.
people are a product of their choices. And then, but a lot of people are lost. They find themselves off on a tangent rather than on the path that they were destined to walk. And it was because of the choices and decisions that they've made.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I talk about. So I mentioned, I created this story. This is my path in order for me to learn and grow and expand and whatever. And, my soul speaks to me when I get off the path. I was given free will so that I could make choices. And free will is where I can deviate from the path. But there is more than one path. And this is why I'm enjoying this conversation, Michael, because I don't come from a religious base, zero religious upbringing, zero. And yet, still, I am on a very spiritual path because there's more than one road to Mecca,
That's
right?
true.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that we're different, but we're the same because we are connected and we both understand that this is the avatar playing an illusion game, and it's a construct that we created, and we will be done and have all
Well,
of our answers.
that's true.
Yeah.
And we're all on a path. These spirit guides, spirit teachers, their joy is in our recognition of their existence. And we have that you spoke about free will. Free will is a pesky little gift. And it is something, these spirit teachers, they can recommend or suggest or share information. I'd slow down up ahead if I were you. I wouldn't buy that car if I were you. And where does that come from?
Right.
But we have that gift of free will and we can accept or reject any advice, guidance, direction, or support that we're given. And these spirit teachers, they don't mind taking a quiz. The Bible says, test the spirit. And so you can be in a situation where you can think, this is what I want to do. And you can be led in a different direction or to not say what you were going to say. And you can just try it either way and see which way works out the best. And that
Right.
will teach you trust in the spirit teacher's information that they share. And you'll find out that things go a lot smoother and easier if you accept their recommendations.
And you can communicate. I'll share another little story with you, kind of recent, about April of last year. I was working with the channel. I mean, this man is amazing. And he was doing sound healing. And then he went, "Oh, I have a message for you. You're going to write a book, another book." And I'm like, I swore, I'm like, fuck no, I'm not writing another book. It's not happening. And he's like, yeah, yeah, you will. So that was April. In June, I was on a road trip from New Hampshire to Colorado. And as I'm driving, especially when I'm doing long driving, I get right into that zone. And I have literal conversations, right? And I got, you're going to write a book and I'll share about dragons. And I went, oh, really? And what would that look like? Right? By the time I got to Denver, I had the whole outline.
Wow.
The book
Well,
is with an editor right now. Yep.
I'll be darned.
Yes, me too.
When you're driving, do you put out the protection on the highway?
I am always protected. I don't, I am always. I'll share another story. Had a contract for a while in Los Angeles and I was living in San Diego. And on a good day, that's a 2 hour and 10-minute drive, right? And so I would leave at 4:30 in the morning to get there by around 6,
Wow.
stay for 2.5 days. It was a contract, 2.5 days, and then drive back. Well, this morning I'm in now LA County, and the traffic is, LA traffic. And this car, and I'm at a stop, and this car is barreling right towards me behind me. I can see it coming. And I have a ring of protection. So, like, put the ring of protection around me because there's nothing I can do. I can't move. And the next thing I knew, the driver had pulled into the gutter beside me, and I was looking at him.
So he didn't he was just going too fast and everybody had
He couldn't
stopped,
stop. He couldn't stop. Yep.
but at least he took avoiding,
Right.
he avoided it by going, out on the side of you.
Right. 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 And in the freeway in almost downtown LA, there are not many places in the left-hand lane where you can do that.
Right.
So there you go. There you go.
I mean, it makes a big difference if you can just pay attention.
Yeah. And believe.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Believe, right? And even if you don't believe, just play. And that is where, I do work with dragons with people, and they're, spirit guides, just in energy, right?
Right.
And what has been happening, which is my biggest joy, is that the folks I've been working with are starting to play. And that's where you start to believe. If you can start playing, well, what if? And I've had like one woman, she's named her dragon, another woman who could never, she says, when you do meditations, I can't see. Well, she says, I saw a dragon. And I'm like, really? And I will use AI and work with them as they describe their dragon so they can have it.
Well, that's interesting.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
So, what does your dragon look like? What does the face look like? What do the horns look like? What do the wings look, right? And so, what are the colors and what are the claws and whatever? Is it a baby, a teenager, an adult? And yeah, because some have teenagers and babies, right?
Right.
And so it is a protection guide because all of my dragon work is all about love and protection. It's all about that. And this has brought them so much joy and so much play in their life. And with that, you can imagine. And if you can imagine, then you can believe,
That's true. That's
right?
true.
Right.
These spirit teachers in these messages and teachings, they repeatedly refer to themselves in first person. We feel, we believe, we advise.
Yeah,
Our view encompasses more than your view can comprehend. One line in a message said, we hear the spirit cries above the words you speak. Who talks like that?
right.
So on on my website, spiritspeaks.com, on Wilma Jean's television interview, I have posted a message from volume 2 of the book, which is not out yet. And this was the only time in a session where she was led to sit down and receive. Two different spirit teachers moved in the same session, gave two different messages, and signed two different names. And it was obvious that the second teacher was a different teacher than the first because the whole cadence and phrasing of the message is different. And this
Absolutely.
first teacher's message, it was just really little more than a long paragraph. May I share this with you and your audience?
Sure, go ahead.
So this was the first teacher's message that came in. There is a resurrection period through which man must travel in order to come into the things of Godlike. You are to consume and digest all that is given here, as this comes from one highly qualified to meet the needs of this generation. You are not the sole property of yourselves. God still holds the everlasting command over your being, and in him must one take refuge. You are to be considered as one who has been stripped of all belongings and left to die by the wayside. In this manner are you then open to any help that would be forthcoming. You are by your very nature ones who would depend on your own intellect to carry you through. However, by giving of your soul into the hands of God, do you prosper and develop more freely into that which denies the outcome of some situations, knowing full well that it is the hand of God leading and directing you so that you may arise victorious in the end. There is never a time when you will be without the Father, nor his ever loving approaches to see that you follow the path that directs you homeward. Take note that we say homeward, as your heavenly Father so resides in that vast insurmountable environment of time and space, so shall ye abide in joint communication with him by the grace with which he covers you and by your ability to accept this grace and use it for your own development. There are others here who wish to make themselves known to you, so I will step aside for this time. My love and devotion follows you as you trod onward but ever faithful to your goal. That message was signed, your loving guide.
You know, as you were reading that, every year I pick a word for me to feel and experience. I don't do goals, I do experience. And this year's the word is surrender. And right, and as you're reading that, I'm like, it's simply surrender. Surrender. Surrender the ego and trust, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
In that message, that next to the last line is the line that made me sit up and take notice. And he said, there are others here who wish to make themselves known to you. So I will
Hmm.
step aside. My question is, who are the others and where is here? What do you mean there are others here? Where are you in relation to us on this spiritual realm, on this physical plane, rather?
They're here. There is no separation. That's the illusion.
Well, they exist in the spiritual realm, I believe, but there is that God-given innate ability for us to communicate with the spiritual realm, both directions. We can receive and we can speak to them,
Right. Like my conversation, right?
right?
Right. With
Yeah.
okay, you're gonna write a book. Oh, really? And what would that? And I will be snarly. I will have a conversation. You know, I wrote a book during that chemo experience, and one of the chapters talks about and I went through that experience for the purpose of alchemizing. Um, I was, angry and frustrated. I was really sick. And I'm like, I know why you did this, but why this of all choices? Why this road? And and then I started to laugh. And I said, I'm just arguing with myself. This is ridiculous. And one of the things I said is, I don't want to go to you for help anymore. I don't want to go to you for answers anymore. I want you to be here with me always. I don't want to turn to you. I want to be with you. I want you literally here. And there was such a shift and a transformation at that point. And that's what I mean by there is no separation. There really isn't. The spirits, your, God, call it whatever you want. I call it myself, quite frankly, is always here, always has been. We have created the illusion of separation. And when we pull that curtain back, and literally during a session last week, I saw a curtain being pulled back. All will be revealed.
Is that acceptance, being willing to accept the information that's shared in real time,
Right.
that gives you the peace and comfort to deal with anything, and knowing and being in communication with your spirit guides and spirit teachers. It doesn't mean you're not going to still have car trouble from time to
Right.
time.
Still
Doesn't
have to
mean you
pay the
may not have
bill, still have to
family
cook.
problems,
Yeah. Right.
but it gives you the confidence to deal with whatever you have to deal with at the time.
And I see it from a very different perspective. There is no judgment. It just is. It's just is something happening. And this too shall pass,
I agree.
right? And it, a lot of the work that I do with clients um, is work around. this whole, trauma and, pain and stories and wounds and all the other crap that coaches talk about is simply something happened and you're hanging on to the story. Let the story go. That happened sometimes 55 years ago. How long are you going to hold on to that? Look at all you missed in the experiences that have been laid before you because you have identified with something that happened when you were 8 and now you're 58. Come on. Isn't it time to let that go?
Some people hold on to things like that.
Right. Because they identify with it and they don't know who they are without the pain. And that's the work we do is to find out who you are.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes. And when you find out who you are, the pain goes away because you're not the pain. You're not the story. You're so much more.
These, if I may share something else, these spirit teachers in these
Mhm.
messages, they usually end the message with a really deep, profound last paragraph or a
Yeah.
really deep, meaningful last sentence.
Yeah.
So this first spirit teacher moved aside, a second teacher moved in, gave a page and a half, single space typed. And I will not read the full message, but the last paragraph of this second teacher's message I thought was extremely profound. May I share this paragraph with you and your
Please,
audience?
please do.
So this was the second teacher's message, the last paragraph. You are not as sheep herded here and there, but you are likened unto the lamb that is cared for individually, nourished and loved until the full and total development allows it to be master of itself. So is man so kept, and denied only those things that would not in the long run nourish his spirit. God is all wise and loving in his dispensations. We are not to judge the workings of our Father, nor are we to judge each other. Work always to improve your own beings, for in the end time there lies your soul, with all the nourishment that you have given it, totally dependent upon the outcome of your intentions. And that message was signed, Your Loving Spiritual Teacher.
Yes, interesting. So, intention, I love the word intentions because that is also a word I use with clients and with many conversations. It doesn't matter to me what words you say. I can feel your intention because there's energy behind that. And you don't have to say a word. Your intention is known,
That's true.
right? Right. And that is something I think I've always had the ability to feel someone's intention, feel the truth. I call it the truth. I can feel the truth. I can see, you can say whatever you want. I can see, I know what's really going on. And that scares a lot of people because they're so accustomed to hiding who they are. I was like that. I can remember, Michael, I can remember thinking, um, like one of the exercises years ago, and I'm talking years ago, of breaking down and finding out who I am is the mirror exercise. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to face who I was because I thought I was horrible. I thought I was terrible. I thought I was worthless and a whole bunch of other things. And in doing that exercise and other things, seeing who I really am and seeing past, again, the facade, past the image was such a gift, was such a gift. And that is what this spiritual revolution that's happening, it's it's growing exponentially because people are waking up to who they really are. And that's what these teachings are imploring us to do.
I agree.
right? Wake up. We're here. Wake up.
I agree.
Yeah.
And we have been told, I don't do a whole lot on Facebook, but recently I saw a post and it said, I don't want to just believe, I want to know.
There is a
And
difference.
we have been told to believe, just have faith for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And I believe that people are coming to the mindset, you have that foundation of faith, that's something you can build on. But people are coming to the mindset where they don't want to just believe, they want to know, they want to really know. And if you have that confidence and have an open mind, you will be led and you will find out and you will be shown the way.
And you will know when you know. I've got shivers all through my body because um, and there is a process. So I'll share it, and it's really more complex than this, but the stripped down version of the process is you learn, you understand, and that's the belief, you understand, but then you know. And
Are
then
you
knowing,
familiar?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Oh, are you familiar with the book called the Urantia book?
No.
That's advanced material. It's a link on my website. Uh, Urantia is their name for the Earth, so it's really the Earth book.
Yeah,
Interesting book, written through an individual in 1935, first published in 1955. It's been translated into 16 languages, over 4 million copies in print. It's my light reading, 2,107 pages. But you don't read the book like a novel. But as you were speaking, a line came into my mind, and it says that we obtain knowledge, gain experience, and create wisdom.
right,
And that is one of our purposes, along with the journey that we're on,
right,
is to obtain knowledge, gain experience, and turn that into wisdom.
right.
Some people do that better than others.
Some people believe that the knowledge is the end game and will not integrate the learnings into their life, but will spout as though they were, and many are, well, they have lots of followers, right? Many will be teachers, but they're not teaching from experience. They're teaching from knowledge, and there is a difference. There is
That's
a
true.
difference. Um, and I'll be honest, I mean, when I started a long time ago, it was definitely more knowledge than experience. But as I started to drink my own Kool-Aid, right, and open up myself, I stopped using other people's words and other people's knowledge and used my own experience as the foundation. And so I won't tell you what you need to do because I don't know. You're you, but I will tell you what I've gone through and what I've experienced, and I will guide you and hold your hand as you go through yours.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, because we're all different. We are energetically, our frequencies, every frequency here is different. When people say we're like a snowflake, that's what's different. That's the snowflake, the frequency of who we are, because everything's energy. Like I say, I base a lot on science, right?
Right.
And I cannot tell your frequency what it should be doing. How can I? It's not the same as mine,
Well, that's true.
right? There may be a lot of similarities, and I can empathize, but that's about it. So I had a conversation with someone today, and um, all I said to her was, I noticed earlier at the end of last year, you went through a shift, and it was beautiful. Who showed up when you went? It was like one day and then the next day. So she had an aha moment. And I called it out to you in a meeting. I said, something happened and I'm really happy for you. And then you backslid. And that happens, right? I said, be aware that you backslid and tap back into that energy because it was beautiful and it was powerful and it is you. So it had nothing to do with me.
Right.
It had everything to do with who she is. She already experienced. And so she knows what that feels like, right? It's a beautiful thing. I love what I do.
Well, these real quick here. Um, my mother's mother, my grandmother, who pastored a small Pentecostal church, she was spoken to, and she would receive sermons dictated to her mind in thought, and even verses to songs. And in the book, An Angel Told Me So, there in the photo gallery in the center, there are 6 verses to a song that my mother's mother, Mary, received lying in a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. She had been taken by ambulance from Dayton to Columbus. She had diabetes. They didn't think she was going to make it. She was in a room by herself. She was praying, and these words started to come into her mind. And she wrote that down, and those 6 verses will almost bring you to tears. And I've had hosts, when I've explained this, they said, well, your mother received, your grandmother received. They said, do you receive? And I said, yes. I said, I'm spoken to, like all of us are. And
Right?
when I was first looking for a publisher, I was on a number of different publisher websites. One of the websites asked questions about your work. One of the questions was, what makes your material unique? Why would anyone want to read this? Great question. And I was sitting where I'm sitting right now at my computer. I didn't really even ask for an answer. I just relaxed my mind, and an answer started to be dictated to my mind. It was 12 lines long. And I have read this answer to a number of hosts on the air. More than one has teared up. May I share this answer with you and your audience?
Absolutely.
So the question was, what makes your material unique? And this is the answer that I was given. The uniqueness of any material is in the manner in which it touches the soul. An open and searching mind pulls the soul and the body in which it inhabits onward and upward with hunger and determination in its quest for spiritual nourishment, ever mindful that the path upon which we walk is the path toward God. Lives lived, experiences endured, goals accomplished, and loved ones lost are all encounters upon that path. Strive always for the highest possible communication with our Heavenly Father. Believe in yourself, as a Father within you is guiding, leading, directing, and comforting you upon this journey that we call life. Blessings be upon you as you walk your chosen pathway.
And it's a beautiful way to wrap her up today. You know, Michael, it's true. We probably could talk for forever. I would love for you, you've mentioned it a few times, but let's do it one more time. If people wanted to know more about you and about what you do, how would they get in touch with you and where would they get the book?
Well, actually, this is the book.
Yeah,
An Angel Told Me So. That's Wilma Jean, my mother, on the front cover. And the book is available on my website, spiritspeaks.com. It's available through Barnes and Noble. It's in Barnes and Noble system. Any Barnes and Noble store across the country can order the book. Ingram is my national distributor. So if you have an independent bookstore that you like to deal with, they all deal with Ingram. And the book is available on Amazon.
fantastic. Thank you so very much, Michael. And thank you, listeners, for spending time with us on the Empowering Process podcast. As always, if you like this, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments. We'll get back to you. And if you know someone who would really benefit from this, do share it out. And as always, thank you so very, very much. Namaste. Bye bye, everybody. Bye, Michael.
Bye, Gail. Thank you again.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe. so you don't miss an episode.